Hello and welcome to the webinar from EdReady Montana, the Readiness for High School and College. Thanks for joining. Hi, Susan. How are you today? And we had, several folks that have expressed interest in this. We will be recording it and getting it out to the folks who couldn't make it live. And we definitely encourage interactivity. So if you have questions along the way, we'd love to answer those questions. Please, feel free to use the chat room or we're a small enough group here coming off mute and asking us questions live. We don't mind that at all. But we'll go ahead and get started since we're at the 12 o'clock hour. We typically run these with about 20 minutes of material that we cover and then Q&A, and we'll stay as long as you need to if you have questions or if we need to follow up with anything. Today we'll be presenting about EdReady, and my name is Ryan. I'm the EdReady Program Director for the Montana Digital Academy. And with me today is Jackie.
Hello, I'm Jackie. I am an EdReady ambassador here with Ryan to help you learn about the program, set up, and use it.
And so what we have at the Montana Digital Academy is a growing set of resources for educators in Montana, and we want to focus you in particular today on our EdReady program. We have webinars going all week to cover the different pieces of our program. And if you haven't seen the Montana Digital Academy in a while, you probably might want to plug into more than one of these because we have a lot of opportunities to connect with Montana schools and educators, a lot of resources, a lot of programs. But today we're going to be focused in particular on the EdReady piece and to emphasize that it is no cost to Montana schools. We have a program where we are using the program out of state with schools, similarly to what we're doing in Montana. That does cost money, but thanks to the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation and their generosity, it remains free and at no cost to Montana schools. And we do things like what we're going to be talking about today, which are the readiness programs for algebra or high school level, also college um, and ACT prep and readiness for the MAST testing as well. So we'll be talking about all those today and covering them. Over this last year, we served around 25,000 student enrollments in Montana, a little over 22,000 math enrollments from grade upper elementary, fourth grade-ish, up to adult and higher education. We've also served over 3,800 enrollments in English in that time, and those are typically high school or college prep type enrollments there. Served about almost just under 180 schools this last year. And then just to review what EdReady is, it is a proficiency-based online education platform that provides both rich learning resources and a proficiency-based assessment tool for schools to be able to assess where students are in their learning pathway. It is offered by another nonprofit organization nationally, of which we repackage that and make it uh, fit with Montana needs. And then we do a lot of supporting students during the transition times between middle school to high school skills and high school to college. So that's what we're going to be focusing our time on today. We always start when we do a needs assessment with the local school with the question, what do you want your students to be ready for? And we've focused in on these particular transition times. Uh, we deal with a lot of students coming into a new school or moving from one grade to another or one level of school to another. And then a lot of new students that come in with mixed skills. Maybe you don't know that student very well. So we do a lot of work helping you assess what that student does or does not know, rather than just having a transcript or a number or a grade of some sort. And then working with transitions into new grade levels, getting from pre-algebra to algebra or getting from a regular track middle school to an advanced track middle school. We also help with test preparation, with ACT testing, with our MAST prep modules for middle schools, or with high school equivalency with HiSET or GED, or other online testing preparation areas as well. The final slide here, we want to help with curricular support as well. Oftentimes that might include as little as 15 minutes or a half an hour a week of enrichment time or remediation time or just supplementation time where students in a school are provided with an alternative voice to what their traditional, maybe one teacher is the only teacher there that teaches math. It gives another voice to those teachers to be able to reinforce or teach some of those skills in a slightly new way within their class. Not sure if you've seen EdReady, but we're going to just do a quick overview of how EdReady works and how EdReady Montana helps you use the program. We have a 5-step program here where we get together with you, we do a needs assessment. What are you trying to do? What is your program struggling with as far as student learning goals or aspirations might be between that upper elementary and um, high school level or college level needs assessment in math or English. And then we set that up with you in a way that allows you to do an initial diagnostic with your students and assess that readiness score with our team, look at the reports. What is it that the students are struggling with? What do they know or don't know? Where can you focus your time efficiently as as a teaching team or as a school overall? And then they're provided with media-rich resources to help reinforce or teach those skills. And then they're also given the assessments so that they can make incremental progress toward whatever that learning goal that we put into place with you is. And then we, of course, look at the data and reports with you to figure out whether they are making progress, where can you focus your time most efficiently to help with progress. And we'll go into a couple of data details here before we get off the phone. But then one of the major items that we want to focus on is that pathway to algebra. It's a huge uh, sticking point, but also a foundational piece to the future of where those students need to be is putting that foundation of algebra readiness into place so you can really build on that, whether you're going into science, math, or any other field. That is pretty much the foundation level of math skills that we all are helping schools work toward. And of course, having the goal to maybe have more students at a younger age in the more advanced math tracks gives them even more opportunities later in their educational pathways, whether it be high school or college or career readiness. So we do a lot of progress monitoring, and I'll talk to you about what the scoring looks like here. So what we do is we set up that program with you and we can do some pre-assessment work. It usually takes less than a class period for a student to take the initial diagnostic. And then we look at small groups of students in some cases, or very large groups of students. We have everything from 1 or 2 students with one teacher doing this method up to full classes of incoming freshmen at our AA schools that are taking this assessment, working. Then we would then work with the math department or the student success team at that school, try to figure out are they appropriately placed and do a comprehensive look at then what's next. What do we do with certain groups of students that are behind, that are ahead, that are on track, and how do we set that up? And then we help them if they're using it as a supplement in their classes. We then have work 2 levels that can put the student to fill in the learning gaps that they have to move between these, to move up in these levels. And we're going to show you some of those results that we have with schools in these particular skills. Then on the college readiness side, we've been doing this with Montana State University and the University of Montana, and we're for the last 4 years. And we're up to 8 different campuses in the university system in Montana, and one that's out of state that we're helping with this process of college placement, but it's not your traditional college placement where they just take this one test and done. This is the baseline scores that they would get on a diagnostic, and then they're encouraged to make improvement on their math skills to move up so that they can, say, move from an intro to algebra level to an actual college level class that would be college algebra or pre-calculus or something like that. So we're helping schools put into place programs that allow students to make those improvements for themselves. And then we also work in a lot of schools based upon the needs that we've heard from our state in both ACT preparation for math and English, and then the MAST preparation for middle school level math improvement as well. It really is a simple solution, but we put into place a team around all of this to work with you. Jackie's here with me. So she's one of our team members. And then Jason, also, it looks like he logged in as well. Our team is here to really help on this part. And maybe Jackie could talk a little bit about what we do at the school to help put out a blueprint for impactful learning, or we do an uh, we do an implementation planning guide process that helps you put into place a solution.
Yeah, so as an ambassador for EdReady, I visit schools, so I would meet with you and other staff, people you work with at your school who'll be using the EdReady program, and we talk about what your vision is, what your goals are for your school, what you need for your students, and we make a plan on how to put that into place in your school, including the details of like when are you going to start, and the nitty-gritty usernames and passwords, to ways to enhance the program for your students using offline resources or other ideas from educators around the state to really make the program come alive and fit into the rhythm of your day with everything else that you're teaching. So we work together to set it up, and then after it is in place, we continue to work together to make sure that you understand the progress and activity of your students within the reports, help you interpret that, to continue or adjust as needed to have successful program.
Thanks, Jackie.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to share just a couple of stories that we've also developed over time that really drill into what Jackie's talking about, because these are schools that she and our other ambassadors and just our full team have been there to support throughout this process. And so this is an example of one of those skill monitoring implementations with a group of 8th grade students using Pathway to Algebra and a little bit of a supplementation in their class. They tested 3 times using the skill check, and you can track that growth of what they were experiencing with the 8th grade and algebra readiness of these students at the beginning of fall. Obviously, they're behind. And what we've had a lot of discussions with, especially since COVID and over the last few years, is if these students only make 1 year of growth within a year, they're still behind in a lot of cases. And so we've been putting into place this supplementation model with schools and giving them a tool to kind of track that progress all the way down to the individual questions or concepts that the students might be struggling with, and helping target that instruction where it's needed to boost that growth up above one year in a year. And so this is an example of where a teacher working with our program and us has done that. You can see here where they started in the fall. You can see the progress that they made in the middle of the year. And by the end of the year, we went from having 3% of those students at that 8th grade readiness and algebra readiness up to almost half of the students in this group. And this is a pretty typical story of an 8th grade teacher and what they were faced with students of all different skill levels. So we'll take a look at what that looks like then down in the numbers. They use the program about 6 to 7 hours of average time. There were some students that had dozens of hours and some students that had just a little bit of time in the system. But what that equated to then, what we were hoping when we started the program was the one level or more was all but 10 of those students made one level or more of growth during that time. And definitely that's what they wanted to see. We had great stories about students making, two, even three levels in one case. But that came out to over 80% of those students that increased that level by the end of the year, and almost all of them increased their score. That's a good movement. We like to see bar charts that look like that, of blue where they start to red where they ended. And then we have a couple of other use cases before we open this up for questions. This one is a Class B school. Whoops. A Class B school that they were using the reports to find gaps in student learning. They used it weekly in class. Again, this was a supplement case where they used it in class along with other teaching practices. And they emphasized showing your own work and use some of our, I believe Jackie talked about some of those resources that are from other educators from around the state to help encourage showing the math work and doing the math. They didn't use it out of class at all. They just used over the shoulder help time. And these 25 students started in the fall. And these are high school to college students at a high school using the pathway to college. Again, looking at similar numbers to what you'd be looking at as college placement. And we could go back and tell you what all those levels mean. But this is pre-algebra, and we're really looking at 250 to 300 level to be college ready by the end of the year. So obviously starting with quite a few of their students below that level. And by the end of the time, she was able to track the growth of those students and verify that they were getting again, that one or more level of growth that they were really looking for almost across the board. And you can see the growth charts there. Here's another one, a AA school that used us just for benchmarking, no supplementing. This is something that we can do with the school to help provide um, what they see initially, mid-year, end of the year, or however often a school wants to try to do this. But again, we saw in this, we want these top ones to grow, the bottom ones to get smaller. And that's what we're seeing here as they track along. And again, we're presenting this with their math PLC and their administrative team to try to figure out, are we doing the right things to target their instruction and to help students grow throughout the year. And then one final one is a math foundations group. And this is probably a typical story in a school that you might be familiar with as users. But these are students who didn't pass first semester. And oftentimes that puts them in a big bind for high school. And so these are your 11 most at-risk students. And this is a Class A example. They were put into the math foundations. They had a combination then of a direct instruction with EdReady to supplement. And then they assessed their students 3 times throughout the year using EdReady. The big result here that's highlighted is this led to 30% of these students going directly into Algebra 1 by the end of the time. So not able to catch everybody, but they're making progress and they're trying to work this through with a very challenging group of students and doing it through that proficiency-based grading so that they ended up earning full credit for the class, even though they started off by failing that first semester. And this shows the results of those students again by getting them through to a higher level of math that, again, lots of challenges there. I don't need to go into that with those of you that know these situations, but it's something that we can help with as well during a pretty difficult transition time. So that's it for us. I think we made it in our 20 minutes or 19. And so we have time for questions now.